All right, so good to have you all here tonight, to be here on a Wednesday evening, to be healthy and well. We didn't die last night. We're on a roll. So I do want to check, Richard, did you mean to have your hand up, or was that an accidental click of the button? Go either way, you know. Accident. All right, no worries. I'll get that down. Thanks, Richard. All right, good to have you here. We are in the Lam Rim. We're currently in the what's often called the small scope, which is this initial motivation of engaging in practices that would at least have us get a good next life, next rebirth. And as we talked about last week, would offer also the opportunities to improve the quality of our life right here, right now. And so I think it was a fairly thoughtful discussion we had after the teaching last week, and really understanding that, you know, that Dharma can meet us where we are at, and we can engage with it in a process of uncovering and allowing our motivation to develop as we engage in the path, that we can really use these teachings, as Robina Corton would say, a working hypothesis, to test it, to see how it works out. And in that process, we may discover this is the path for us, and that refuge can be stronger, and our motivation gets stronger. And in that way, we actually will cultivate the ability to have joyous effort to fully engage in a path, because our refuge, our faith, is not based on a construct of my mind or a devotion. It's really a devotion that arises from a recognition that this works, that my life's improved, that my quality of mind and the way of being in the world is more meaningful. And it's tried and tested. So, you know, we have different people here at different levels. And this first motivation really suits that, because it gives the whole practice of how we can have a really solid practice that lays the foundation for further practice and improves the quality of our lives right now. So that begins with that morning practice that we offer each day, and taking refuge, and cultivating bodhicitta, doing some meditation, cultivating mindfulness, engaging in virtuous activities, avoiding the non-virtuous ones, you know, cultivating those good karmic imprints, purifying in the evening, purifying negativities, and then dedicating the merit. I mean, just doing that every day. Wow, that's a trajectory. That's cultivating merit and incredible potential every day. So real opportunity, and I think that's where we've been at. And so within this scope here is the refuge, you know, our motivation, that conviction of a path that's suitable, that makes sense to walk down, makes sense to engage in. And we talked about the qualities of refuge there. And we're at this point now of a conviction of karma, right? A conviction of cause and result. And so last week we talked about these 4 basic laws of karma and how they work. So we're going to dive a little more deeply into that, and the 10 non-virtuous activities, the activities to avoid. And then we'll dive into the virtuous one. So is this, of all the non-virtuous actions, unwholesome karmic imprints that we can create, there's a top 10 list, and they fall into 3 categories: body, speech, and mind. And the Buddha just knows these are the, you know, the big top 10. You know, there's lots that we can engage in, but these ones are prevalent. They cause the most problems, and, you know, this is a good place to start, good foundation. And so as we transition here into the understanding of karma and cause and effect, there's these sort of 4 branches of a complete karma. So these sort of 4 branches. And so it's nice to know the dynamics here, because sometimes we can get a little overly stressed out about not being perfect. And by the way, we're not perfect. So we are going to be engaging in lots of activities, and the activities that we engage in out of confusion, trying to be okay and happy and well, we can easily fall into some very subtle, non-virtuous activities, unwholesome habits and tendencies. And the point is that we're working on getting better. So we're working on getting better. None of this is a prison sentence in that sense, that we can continually purify, we can continually work a little more thoughtfully on our mindfulness, so we can be more present to engage in healthier choices that are wholesome, virtuous more often. And we're getting better. So it's this journey of progress. So with these 4 branches, we talk about a complete karma. Now, we're creating karma all the time. There's this ongoing movements of the mind and activities that we engage in that cause and effect. Mind moves. There's a result. There's things that we engage in, as we talked about last week, motivation being one of the key points there. But motivation is one part of a complete karma, or any activity that we do. And these 4 parts, these 4 branches of what we call a complete karma would be, you have to have an object. So there has to be that object that is not us. There needs to be the motivation, right? The motivation to do something to that object. There's an action. So I have a motivation, I have an object, and then there's an action. And then that action gets completed. It actually gets completed. And then there's how do I feel about it after, right? So the mind about having completed that action. So we're going to get a little technical tonight, but I think it's it's taught. It's taught for a reason, and I think it can be really helpful. So let me just get my screen here right. So the idea that, let's say, it's usually taught like killing, right? So I'm going to kill someone, that there's someone to kill, and it's not me. So it's an interesting little tidbit there. Killing me is not the complete karma, because I'm killing me. It's still not wholesome, and it has deep ramifications. But an object outside of myself, and so someone, let's say I want to kill someone, and so there's a motivation, and that motivation, generally to unwholesome, it's usually within 3 categories that, if I can pull them up here in my mind, is that it's done out of desire. It's done either out of desire, out of anger, or out of sort of ignorance, in a sense, but not the common ignorance that we have of misperception, but out of just a complete misunderstanding the laws of karma and the way that we're doing things, or what the impact is, in a sense. Thinking that something's good when it's not. So there's an object, there's some person I want to kill, there's the action of killing. It's motivated out of anger, usually, out of killing. And then the completion of the action is completed. It actually happens. And so I want to kill some guy. Call him John. Okay, I want to kill John. And I'm angry and I want to kill John. I see John. I identify John accurately. So there has to be an accurate understanding. And then I attack John to kill him, and I kill him, and so there's a completion, right? There's all these aspects are there. There can be all these other things that maybe I didn't mean to kill John. Maybe I was wanting to kill Sam, kill John. So again, not going to be a complete karma. Didn't identify the object accurately, killed the wrong person. I may fail in the attempt. I may fail the attempt to kill John, who might survive. So there's lots of things where the action may not be complete. It may not be complete due to, just I couldn't do it. I tried to do it. I killed the wrong person. Didn't identify the person properly. It wasn't completed. Maybe my motivation was never to kill this person. It killed someone. And so that, you can see where this could go in a lot of ways to not have a complete A+, as Tubten Children, but an A+, solid, complete karmic, completed karma. So most, a lot of karmas, I'm going to not use the word most because I don't know. But many karmas are not always complete. So there's still impacts, there's still causes and results, there's still imprints. But, it's kind of nice to know this complete karma. And that way we can know, that, I did this thing, but did I really mean to do that thing? Do I have some remorse? That's all going to be mitigating factors. And so a lot of the things that we engage in that are harmful or non-virtuous, well, our motivation wasn't to do harm, or it wasn't to impact people in a particular way. And that really is important to remember. So often, this can get helpful when we think about what's my motivation, because of how karma is weighted, the weight that it carries within our continuum of consciousness is, motivation is going to be key. What's my motivation? That's going to be its strongest imprint, strongest weight. So it's kind of nice to really try to keep our motivations pure, our motivations to be helpful, to be kind, to be beneficial. That's going to be happening. There's a good advice that Alan Wallace received. He was a monk at the time. He's coming to the U.S. and fully ordained monastics have lots of vows, over 200 vows, and so it's very difficult to live in a modern Western culture here and try to maintain all those vows. And you're going to break them. It's going to be challenging, and he's asking advice from his teachers. How does he do this? I mean, right off the bat, he's getting picked up from an airport, I think, by a woman, and monks and women don't get alone together, and there's just so much going on, and so he's seeking this advice, and his teacher told him, in these situations, ask yourself what's beneficial. What's the most beneficial thing to do here? What's the most beneficial thing? And I think that's a really wonderful piece of advice. If I'm cultivating a mind that says I want to be helpful, I want to reduce suffering, I want to be beneficial, what's the most compassionate thing to do in these situations? And that's our motivation. Then that resulting karmic imprints, it's got a lot of opportunity to be virtuous, right? Because I have a virtuous mind, and now the action that follows that. So, good thing to understand, remember, so that we're not beating ourselves up all the time. And often, though, they will say out of anger, it's pretty easy to have a complete karma. So watching the angry mind is really important, because I can get angry, I can act out of anger, I can target an object, I can complete an action, I can even feel pretty righteous about it. And often those are pretty easy to do, complete A+. So that's something to really bear in mind, where sometimes having a complete good karma can sometimes be pretty challenging. I have a good motivation, I want to do that, but kind of becomes challenging after a while, then I don't do it, and I don't follow through, and it's not completed, and I have these commitments to do this or that, and I don't do them. So sometimes it's actually out of anger, really easy to do a lot of unwholesome karma. Out of good motivation can be challenging to complete sometimes. So that's why anger is such an important affliction to work with. And to work with anger isn't to work with it when I get angry. The idea is to, when I'm not angry, work at the causes, that give rise to anger. So having more understanding, developing more patience, cultivating more loving kindness, I can be cultivating this recognition of my interdependence with others. Anger's not going to rise as easily. Those causes aren't going to be there, especially as I recognize our interdependence, that others are helping me have the life I have, even the ones I don't like. Patience, cultivating that. Patience being, one of the antidotes to anger. So these are important to just know on an ongoing basis, so that as we engage in our life, we can, as we talked about, the anger's here, it's not out there, and I can cultivate the seeds of anger. I can also cultivate the seeds of patience, tolerance, of love and kindness and compassion. So maybe they'll arise. All right, so I think, that's pretty good on that piece. And so with that understanding, we look at these 10 non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind. It's nice to have a nice tight list like that. And again, it's posted every day in the daily practice posts we do in the community. It's in our prayer book, these 10. First 3 are with the body, and number 1's not killing. Number 2, not taking what is not offered, often just called stealing, and sexual misconduct. So in here, each part really breaks down to multiple subtleties. So it's good to reflect upon them, talk about them, understand them. And killing, again, I just kind of gave a complete karma out of either desire, out of anger, out of my ignorance, killing. And, as it gets even more subtle, we don't want to harm people, but killing is the actual piece here. So, and this applies to all sentient beings. So I just had a really lovely talk with someone around, killing animals for food. And so that would be in this category, that we don't kill animals for food. We don't kill other sentient beings. And that, if we're on a path of cultivating this bodhicitta, this great compassion, I'm in this to help all beings be free of suffering. Well, why would another's life be less than mine? And so there's this idea of working with my mind, because the primary real problem in my life that has created samsara, that has perpetuated this life, time after time after time, is self-cherishing, self-importance, self-grasping, self-cherishing. That I'm fundamentally more important than you, and my needs are important. And there's a tending to at the core me and mine in a way that I don't exist, and I can cherish that, and out of that self-cherishing, I've created all this karma that has created these tendencies. And so the approach, really primary approach within Tibetan Buddhism is to great compassion. And all of the practices of cultivating bodhicitta are going at eliminating, attacking the real enemy of my life, which is my own self-cherishing, my own self-grasping in a way that doesn't exist and puts me above others. Which is different than self-esteem. I can have self-worth and value and know that I have Buddha nature, that my life is meaningful. I have a rare and precious human rebirth. I can have all that and not think I'm more important than you. As a matter of fact, thinking I'm more important than you is a problem. And also, not having a healthy sense of self is a problem. So this path of awakening is one in which, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to be healthy. We need to be well. We need to make sure we are nourished, that our foundational basic needs are met, that we put ourselves in healthy environments as best we can. We take good care of ourselves, and we really recognize our value, our Buddha nature, and that this life is important, and I need to take good care of it and use my life in meaningful ways to cultivate the essence, the merit and wisdom, and truly benefit all sentient beings. But that doesn't make me better than any other being or more important. So this path and cultivating first, a good, healthy sense of this conventional self and this body and a way of engaging in the world. And a good part of that is an interesting piece is that when I'm able to do that more, I can love others more. I can see and recognize the value of others more. I'm not in competition with others, and I can see their value. So killing is definitely not going to be on the list of. It's going to be top one of the list of what not to do. And then, of course, we don't want to harm others, right? We don't want to fight with them, beat them, harm them physically. Then the next one's stealing, or taking that which is not offered. So monastics have really tricky rules around that, and really being clear about what's offered and what's not. But let's just use a conventional human being stealing, taking something that has not been given, that's not rightfully yours. And so a lot of us may think, well, we don't steal. And do we pay our taxes? Do we keep some stuff off the books? Do we kind of common traveling sometimes different countries to hide things that might get a high import tax, or there's things that do I steal my time from my employer, and so stealing can taking that which is really not mine, and lots of ways to steal that maybe might be a little more subtle than we might recognize. I'm not holding up a bank, but my boss is paying me for X amount of hours, and I'm not maybe working all those hours. My income tax, things of this nature. What are the ways of the world that we engage in with others? So stealing, then, whether it's we borrowed something from a friend, and we're giving it back. Do we have some things laying around? And then sometimes there's just taking advantage of a situation. They gave you too much money, change, refund. Well, okay, you got to keep that. Well, that wasn't mine. It was an accident. Can I give it back? I'm just thinking of some slot where maybe a campsite, it's it's after hours. Can't, don't have to pay. Can sleep here the night, get out before I get caught. And so, there's lots of ways that we might steal. And so thinking about that and being more clear about what is my motive here. Is it to get something that was not mine, or not earned, or not given, or not offered? Yeah, it gets tricky sometimes with the subtlety of mind, and that's just going to be a block. It's just going to be a block. It's cultivating desire. It's undermining my ethics, and so good to be really thoughtful about this idea of stealing. And then the next one is sexual misconduct, and so these areas, it's an interesting thing when people, okay, well, what's appropriate sexual conduct? And so there were actually, the Buddha said, he gave some things, clearly not to do. So not to have sex with someone who's married with someone else, right? Not to have sex with children, when you're an adult. And I can't remember, there's also, some very basics. But, I think some of those, like, adultery, underage people without their consent, obviously, that would be another one. And so some of this, kind of commonsensical around that. But at its core, it's let's not harm with sex. So it wasn't, saying gay or not gay or any of that. It was pretty funny. I was listening to another monk. He's actually in a different tradition. He was speaking at, I think it was a high school or something. And maybe I raised his hand, what about, gay sex? And he says, well, just another way to suffer. And, I just thought that was funny. In other words, just the attachment, because he was talking about suffering and attachment, and wasn't talking about the like that would be harmful in any way. It's if you love people and you're engaged in conduct that is consenting, and you're not doing it maliciously, and your motives are good, and you are engaging in this activity in a way that is not harming, then you're okay. Doesn't matter with the orientations of others, because ultimately, from a Buddhist perspective, it's this human condition that we're in, a human condition, and in this human condition, we're stuck in samsara, and we're actually stuck in a place we don't need to be. That is really a place to get out of, and not to perpetuate. So that's why I said just another form of suffering, just like eating cherry pie too much. You're going to form an attachment, and then you're going to suffer when you don't have it. He was just talking from trying to capture his thing, because he's a monk, doesn't have sex. So, so this sexual misconduct then is really something around, having good motives, approaching it with another partner who's consenting, who's of age, who's not, married to someone else, and that it's make it meaningful. That's a good thing. Make it meaningful. As again, just frivolous attachment or desires, or acting out sexually, even amongst consenting adults, can cause a lot of harm, feeding sexual addictions and other things that can happen. So again, is it harmful, or is it helpful? Is it neutral? Let's not make it harmful. Sexual misconduct nowadays has other layers, I think, which would be interesting to explore more. Which I haven't had any in-depth discussions with my teachers on this. But this day and age is watching pornography when you're married, and they don't know about it, and someone's doing it, and how's that? Right. Well, clearly it's an attachment, and how do you feel about it? Why would you hide it? Why wouldn't you share it? And so, in this day and age, there's a lot of, since it's so prevalent with cell phones and tablets, it's free. People can see it all the time. The addiction, sexual addictions, porn addictions, things of that nature, really common and just very pervasive. So a lot of damage can get done there as well. In which case, when we think about sexual misconduct, maybe you're not married, maybe you're not doing anything against, without the consent of your partner, but you're creating a lot of damage, right? You're rewiring these neural pathways, and then that dopamine that comes out and gives the nice, pleasurable result is something that becomes an addiction and can do a lot of damage and can be really difficult to break. So in that case, there's a lot of self-harm there. So if we start thinking in terms of killing, harming others, stealing, sexual misconduct, well, you can pretty much see that if we look in the crime stories or the news, there's going to be a lot of stealing there. Well, we're not even getting to lying and all that other stuff, but you're going to see a lot of, harming others, killing. You're going to see stealing. You're going to see sex be a huge role in people's activities and the harm that gets done. So just right off the top, if you sort through that, you're going to see a lot of that. Then there's 4 of the speech. I'm looking at the time. I think we can get through these. And, of course, lying. Lying, so not telling the truth. And that, again, gets, complete karma, 4 branches of it. Because people will often go, well, what about little lies? Well, did you intend to lie? Did you lie? Did you complete the action? And so lying is something that can get real tricky also. Then, sometimes maybe you're protecting someone's life and you're willing to lie because someone's trying to kill them. That's the common teaching within my tradition, okay. It's pretty funny. I'll just, with my teacher, who's just sweetest old lama, because they would, the story, someone comes running in and says, hide me, someone's trying to kill me. And so, hides him. And that person comes in and says, where's so-and-so? And, like the question, do you lie? And his initial response is, well, maybe you try to distract them from, it's still a last resort from his view is, try to distract him, change the subject, can you, and it's pretty funny, but, ultimately, with that motivation to not have someone killed. Then also the motivation that we might have is that we wouldn't want the person who would kill someone to incur such heavy negative karma, that we would be willing to take on a little bit of karma for lying with the motivation to protect, which would be a bodhisattva type motivation. I'm willing to take this on myself so that this killer doesn't incur the negative karma of killing. That would be just too much. So, okay, then lie, but yes, for the initial response, well, see if you can distract them, change the subject, then if you have to, maybe lie. And so lying, and, we lie sometimes to ourselves and rationalize things, and we lie to others by omission a lot. But also there's a skillful time to not disclose everything, and we don't need to go tell everyone what we think. That's not helpful, skillful, and meaningful. So, be as truthful as you can, be as authentic as you can. There's a real freedom in truth. It's, my own personal journey. Part of that is recovery from addiction, and 36 years ago, and just, learning how to be a better human being, not use substances. And in the programs of recovery, they talk about honesty. Honesty is core. And I've just found that to be true. that all the things that I've learned in my life, the more honest I can be, the more freedom I have in the world, the more I am able to look in the mirror and be okay with myself, the more I discover my own value, the more sense of well-being comes, when I don't need to put on airs or pretend I'm something I'm not, or tell someone a different story because I'm worried what they'll think about me. I mean, it just cuts through these 8 worldly concerns and provides a real foundation for recognizing your own value and your own authenticity. And so important, cultivating honesty on just multiple levels, and ultimately getting better around being honest with yourself. We are going to run out of time before I get through all the speech, but I'll just list them. So we've got, right, so don't lie, don't engage in harsh speech that would harm others. And that's worthy of discussion. So we'll come back to speech next week. And then we have divisive speech, and then we have this category. It's often called, either idle gossip or mindless talk, and it's important to recognize how that can be harmful. And so again, these are not, you're being punished if you do these things. That's not how it works. There's no one punishing. We are always working with our own mind streams, and we're always being aware that with karma, there's just cause and results. So these unwholesome actions that we're talking about of the body create are causes that will create results, and the results are unpleasurable. Okay, that's the polite way of saying it. The result that we will have by engaging in these, it just won't be pleasant. Okay, and can be quite painful. And the Buddha didn't make it up, and nobody's judging. In his journey to understand the nature of suffering, the nature of self, the nature of samsara, he became really aware of cause and effect and seeing how these dynamics play out. And just shared, this is just kind of the way what I've observed, this way things work. And so again, he's not punishing, no one's punishing. It's just sort of the nature of things. And just like we talked about last week, plant an apple seed to get an apple tree. You won't get an orange tree. You plant an orange seed, tend it well, you'll get an orange tree, won't get an apple tree. So we're creating these seeds in our consciousness that give rise to, as we interact with the world, these experiences, and some pleasant and some not so pleasant. So the virtuous ones give rise to the pleasurable ones, the happiness, the well-being, and the non-virtuous will give rise to unpleasant. And it's just the nature of things. No one's bad. We're not bad for doing it. There's no punishment, no good you, bad you. It's a human being in a body, doing things, trying to be well. And when you do these things, these are kind of the results. And but we can always do better, and we can become more aware of how the things in our experience work, and understand causes better, and then we can modify our activities, and then see how things, we're going to experience things different. We're creating our future right now. So it's real important to be gentle with yourself, to know you're valuable, to not be self-critical, to be accountable in a healthy and meaningful way, and to do our best to be mindful and avoid these unwholesome activities and engage more in wholesome ones, and grow along the way. So I think we're leading.